Jake Morrison sat on his old couch and looked at the pile of broken electronics on his table. His left leg hurt like it always did when the weather changed. The metal in his bones from the war never let him forget what happened on Kepler 442. 3 years had passed since he came home, but the pain stayed with him every day. The small apartment smelled like coffee and old metal. Jake picked up a broken tablet and started working on it with his tools. This was how he made money now. People brought him their broken things and he fixed them. It was not much money, but it was enough to pay for food and rent in the worst part of New Terra Colony. Outside his window, Jake could see the big ships that came and went from the spaceport. Rich people lived in the tall buildings near the center of the city. Poor people like Jake lived in the old buildings that the city forgot about. His neighbors were mostly other veterans who could not find good jobs, or families who worked in the factories. Jake was thinking about lunch when he heard a loud noise outside. It sounded like thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. He got up slowly, using his walking stick to help his bad leg, and looked out the window. A huge ship was landing in the street. It was not like the ships Jake knew. This one was silver, and had strange patterns on its sides that seemed to move and change color. People started coming out of their apartments to look. The ship was beautiful, but scary at the same time. Jake had seen ships like this during the war. They belonged to the Zephyrians, the alien race that humans had fought against for 5 years before the peace treaty was signed. The ship door opened with a soft sound. 3 tall figures came out. They walked like they owned the whole planet. Jake recognized them as Zephyrians by their long arms and the way their skin changed colors when they moved. One of them wore clothes that looked expensive and important. The important one looked around until he saw Jake's building. Then he pointed at it and said something to the others in a language that sounded like music mixed with static. They walked toward the building entrance. Jake heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone knocked on his door. Not a normal knock, but a pattern that seemed too perfect to be human. Jake limped to the door and opened it. The important Zephyrian stood in the hallway. He was taller than Jake, and his skin was pale blue with silver spots. His clothes looked like they cost more money than Jake made in a year. "Jake Morrison," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. I have come to speak with you about a matter of great importance." Jake did not know what to say. He had never talked to a Zephyrian before, except during the war when they were trying to kill each other. "What do you want with me?" "May I enter your home?" "What I have to tell you is private." Jake stepped back and let the ambassador in. The other 2 Zephyrians stayed in the hallway. Veltar looked around the small apartment. His eyes stopped on the military medals Jake kept on a shelf. "You served in the war," Veltar said. "Yes. Infantry. Got hurt on Kepler 442. "Ah, yes. The battle where you saved the life of King Thisara." Jake remembered that day. He had found an injured Zephyrian soldier trapped under some metal. Jake could have left him there, but something made him help instead. He never knew the soldier was important. "The king is dead," Veltar said. "He died 3 days ago. Before he died, he made a will. In this will, he left something to you." "That's impossible. I don't even know the guy." "You knew him." "The soldier you saved was King Thisara. He was young then, not yet king, but he never forgot what you did. He studied human culture after that day. He learned about human kindness and honor." Veltar reached into his robes and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button and a blue light filled the air. The light formed into the shape of a Zephyrian face. "Jake Morrison," the face said in English. "If you are hearing this, I am dead. You saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. This act of mercy changed how I see your species. I have a gift for you, but it is also a burden." The hologram continued. "My youngest child was born different. She speaks in human words instead of the sacred mind speech of our people. This makes her an outcast among my kind. She cannot rule, and she cannot live a normal life in our society. But perhaps she can find a home with humans." Jake felt confused. "What are you talking about?" The hologram answered as if it could hear him. "I am giving you my daughter. Her name is Zara. Raise her well, Jake Morrison. Teach her about human courage and human heart." The light faded. Veltar looked uncomfortable. "The gift is outside." They went to the window. One of the other Zephyrians was holding a white box about the size of a basketball. The box seemed to glow with its own light. "An egg," Veltar said. "She will hatch soon. The king has also provided money for her care." He handed Jake a card. "This contains enough credits to feed and house you both for many years." "Wait," Jake said. "I can't take care of a Zephyrian baby. I don't know anything about your people." "That is exactly why the king chose you. She needs to learn human ways, not ours. We cannot teach her what she needs to know." The other Zephyrians brought the egg inside. It was warm to the touch, and Jake could feel something moving inside it. They set it carefully on his table. "There is one more thing," Veltar said. "Not everyone in our government agrees with the king's decision. Some see the child as a threat. You must protect her." "A threat? She's just a baby. She carries royal blood. That makes her dangerous to some people." Veltar moved toward the door. "The king trusted you with his most precious treasure. Do not let him down." The Zephyrians left as quickly as they had come. Their ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. Jake was alone with the egg. He sat down and looked at it. The shell had patterns that moved like water. Inside, something tapped softly against the walls of its prison. Jake reached out and touched the surface. It was warm and smooth. "What have I gotten myself into?" he said to himself. The egg cracked. A small piece of shell fell away, then another. Jake watched as a tiny claw pushed through the opening. The claw was followed by a small blue head with silver eyes that looked right at him. "Are you my daddy?" the little dragon asked in perfect English. Jake stared at the tiny dragon sitting in the broken pieces of her egg. She was no bigger than a house cat, with scales that changed from blue to silver when she moved. Her eyes were huge and bright, looking at him with curiosity and trust. "Are you my daddy?" she asked again. Jake did not know what to say. He had never been a father to anyone, let alone an alien dragon baby. "I guess I am now. What's your name?" "Zara," she said. "I'm hungry." "What do you eat?" "I don't know. What do you eat?" Jake looked in his small kitchen. He had some leftover soup and bread. "Want to try some soup?" Zara climbed out of her egg and walked across the table. She was already steady on her feet, moving with grace that seemed impossible for something so young. Jake heated up the soup and put a small bowl on the table. Zara sniffed the soup and then dipped her tongue into it. Her face lit up. "This is good. Much better than the food paste they gave me in the egg." "You remember being in the egg?" "Yes. It was dark and boring. I could hear voices sometimes, but they always sounded angry when they talked about me." Jake felt sorry for the little dragon. "Well, you're with me now. No one's going to be angry at you here." Over the next few hours, Jake learned that Zara was incredibly smart. She looked at his books and asked what the marks on the pages meant. When Jake explained that they were letters that made words, Zara studied them carefully. "Show me more," she said. Jake spent the evening teaching her the alphabet. By bedtime, Zara could read simple words. Jake made a nest for her out of old blankets, but she climbed onto his bed instead. "Dragons are social creatures," she said, curling up next to his pillow. "We sleep together for warmth and safety." Jake did not argue. The little dragon fell asleep quickly, making soft humming sounds that reminded Jake of a cat purring. The next morning, Jake woke up to find Zara reading one of his books. She had grown during the night and was now the size of a medium dog. "Good morning, Daddy," she said without looking up from the book. "Did you know that humans fought wars over something? Called oil? That seems silly when there are so many other energy sources. How did you read that whole book already?" "I'm a fast learner. Can I have more books?" Jake did not have many books, but his neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, had a collection. He went next door and explained his situation. Mrs. Patterson was an old woman who had lost her son in the war. She looked at Zara with wonder. "She's beautiful," Mrs. Patterson said, "and so polite. Of course she can borrow my books." Word spread quickly through the apartment building about Jake's new daughter. Most people were curious rather than afraid. Zara charmed everyone she met with her intelligence and good manners. Mr. Costa, who lived downstairs, brought his broken radio to Jake. While Jake worked on it, Zara watched carefully. "The problem is in the power converter," Zara said. "The crystals are not aligned properly." Jake looked where she pointed. She was right. "How did you know that?" "I can sense. Electrical. Fields. It's a dragon thing." Soon Zara was helping Jake with his repair work. Her small size let her reach places he could not, and her natural understanding of electronics made the work faster and easier. One day, the building's water system broke down. The landlord said it would take days to get someone to fix it. Zara asked to look at the problem. "I think I can help," she said. Jake followed her to the basement where the water purification system was located. Zara studied the machine for a few minutes, then started adjusting pipes and switches. Within an hour, clean water was flowing through the building again. "How did you learn to do that?" Jake asked. "I didn't learn it. I just understand how things work. It's like speaking. I don't remember learning English, but I can do it." The other residents were amazed and grateful. Mrs. Patterson baked cookies for Zara. Mr. Costa taught her how to play chess. The family with 3 kids invited her to watch movies with them. For the first time since the war, Jake felt like he belonged somewhere. Watching Zara make friends with his neighbors made him happy in a way he had almost forgotten. But not everything was peaceful. Jake started noticing small flying machines outside his window. They looked like metal insects, but they moved too perfectly to be alive. "Those are Zephyrian surveillance drones," Zara said when Jake pointed them out. "How do you know?" "I recognize the technology. Someone is watching us." "Are you worried?" Zara thought about this. "A little, but I'm not going back. This is my home now." Jake taught Zara about human values during their daily walks around the colony. He showed her the memorial wall where the names of war dead were written. "These people died protecting others," he said. "That's what humans do. We take care of each other, even when it's dangerous." Zara read every name on the wall. "I want to be like that too. I want to protect people." "You already do. You help everyone in our building. You make their lives better just by being kind. Is that enough?" "It's everything." One evening, while Jake was making dinner, Zara was playing with some electronic parts on the table. Suddenly, the parts started moving by themselves, connecting and rearranging into complex patterns. "Zara, what are you doing?" She looked up, surprised. "I was just thinking about how to make the building's communication system work better." The parts started moving. "You moved them with your mind?" "I think so." "Is that bad?" Jake sat down next to her. "It's not bad. It's just another thing that makes you special, but maybe we should be careful about who sees you do it." Zara nodded. "I understand. Some gifts are dangerous if the wrong people know about them." That night, Jake lay awake thinking about what Veltar had said. Some Zephyrians saw Zara as a threat. Jake was starting to understand why. She was growing stronger every day, and her abilities were beyond anything he had expected. But when he looked at her sleeping peacefully next to him, all he saw was a little girl who wanted to belong somewhere. A little girl who called him Daddy and made him feel like his life had meaning again. Outside, the surveillance drones hummed quietly in the darkness, waiting and watching. Jake made a decision. Whatever came next, He would protect Zara. She had given him a reason to be brave again, and he would not let her down. The next morning brought new challenges, but also new possibilities. Zara was growing up fast, and Jake knew their quiet life. Together could not last forever, but for now they had each other, and that was enough. Jake woke up to the sound of ships in the sky, not the usual cargo ships that visited New Terra Colony, but military vessels that moved in perfect formation. He looked out the window and saw Zephyrian warships blocking out the morning sun. Zara was already awake, standing by the window with her scales dark blue, which Jake had learned meant she was worried or scared. "They've come for me," she said quietly. "How do you know?" "I can hear their communications. They're looking for the lost." "Princess." Zara turned to look at Jake. "That's what they call me now." Jake put his hand on her shoulder. She had grown again during the night and was now almost as tall as his waist. Her growth was getting faster as she got older. "We'll figure this out," Jake said, but he was not sure how. The building shook as something large landed in the street. Through the window, Jake could see Zephyrian soldiers setting up some kind of barrier around the apartment building. Their weapons glowed with blue energy. Someone knocked on the door. Not the polite knock of a neighbor, but the hard bang of someone who expected to be obeyed immediately. "Jake Morrison," a voice called in accented English. "Open this door. I am Commander Vexrun of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. I have come for the stolen property of our empire." Stolen property. Zara's scales turned red with anger. "I'm not property." Jake opened the door, but kept his body between Vexrun and Zara. The commander was taller than Ambassador Veltar had been, with silver skin and scars across his face that suggested he was a warrior. "Where is the creature?" Vexrun demanded. "Her name is Zara, and she's my daughter now." "Your daughter?" Vexrun laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You cannot adopt royal blood, human. The abomination belongs to the Empire." "I'm not an abomination," Zara said, stepping out from behind Jake. "I'm a person with feelings and thoughts and rights." Vexrun stared at her with disgust. "It speaks. How revolting. No proper Zephyrian would lower themselves to use primitive vocal communication." "I can do both," Zara said. Her eyes glowed silver for a moment, and suddenly Vexrun stumbled backward as if someone had pushed him. "Impossible," he whispered. "She used mind speech." "I told you I wasn't broken," Zara said. "I'm just different." Vexrun recovered quickly. "Different or not, you will come with me. King Thisara was a traitor who planned to give human colonies access to our military secrets. You are the proof of his betrayal." "That's not true," Jake said. "The king wanted peace between our peoples." "Peace?" Vexrun spat. "Humans are a virus that spreads across the galaxy, destroying everything they touch. We should have finished you during the war." Jake felt his old anger rising. He had heard enough Zephyrian insults during the war to last a lifetime. "Get out of my home. I will leave when I have what I came for." Vexrun gestured, and 2 soldiers entered the apartment. Zara moved faster than Jake had ever seen her move. She breathed out a stream of fire that melted the soldiers' weapons without hurting them. The soldiers backed away in shock. "I said I'm not going," Zara repeated. More soldiers appeared in the hallway. Jake realized they were outnumbered and outgunned. But before anyone could move, new voices came from outside. "This is Captain Lisa Hayes of the Colonial Defense Force," a woman's voice announced through a speaker. "Commander Vexrun, you are in violation of the peace treaty. Remove your forces immediately." Jake looked out the window and saw human military vehicles surrounding the Zephyrian soldiers. The humans were outnumbered, but they had taken defensive positions and were clearly ready to fight. "The treaty does not apply to stolen Imperial property," Vexrun called back. "Zara is not property," Captain Hayes replied. "She is a resident of this colony under the protection of human law." Jake was surprised. He had not asked for help from the military. "Someone else must have called them." "I called them," Mrs. Patterson said from the hallway. "When I saw those alien bullies threatening our neighbors." Zara walked to the window and spoke in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "I am Zara, daughter of King Thesiara. I choose to stay with the humans who accepted me when my own people rejected me." "You have no right to choose," Vex Run said. "You are a child, and a defective one." "I have every right," Zara replied. "And I'm not defective. I'm evolved." She closed her eyes and concentrated. Suddenly, every electronic device in the area started acting strangely. The Zephyrian weapons powered down, their communication systems filled with static. Even their ships began drifting as their navigation systems failed. "What are you doing?" Vex Run demanded. "Something impossible," Zara said. "I'm talking to your machines in their own language." Jake watched in amazement as Zara took control of the Zephyrian technology. She was not just reading the electronic signals, she was rewriting them. "This proves she is dangerous," Vex Run said to his soldiers. "We must take her by force." "Try it," Captain Hayes said. Human soldiers appeared at every window of the surrounding buildings, their weapons aimed at the Zephyrians. "You would start a war over one creature?" Vex Run asked. "We would start a war to protect a child," Captain Hayes replied. "That's what humans do." Zara let go of the Zephyrian systems, and their equipment started working again. But the message was clear. She could disable their entire fleet if she wanted to. "This is not over," Vex Run said. "The Empire will not allow this insult to stand." "Then the Empire will learn what happens when you threaten our people," Captain Hayes said. The Zephyrians retreated to their ships, but they did not leave the system. Jake could see them taking positions around the planet, ready for a siege. "Captain." Hayes came up to the apartment. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and kind eyes that reminded Jake of the good officers he had known during the war. "Mr. Morrison, we need to talk," she said. "The situation has become very serious very quickly." Jake invited her in. Zara curled up on the couch, looking tired from using her powers. "The colonial government has voted to grant Zara official citizenship and protection," Captain Hayes said. "But that means we're now in conflict with the Zephyrian Empire." "I never wanted to cause trouble," Zara said quietly. "You didn't cause this, sweetie," Captain Hayes said. "These people caused it by trying to take you away from your family." "What happens now?" Jake asked. "Now we prepare for war," Captain Hayes said. "And we hope that other alien species will see what's happening and choose sides." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. By protecting Zara, he had put his entire species at risk. "It's not your fault, Daddy," Zara said, reading his expression. "You taught me that protecting people is worth any risk. But what if we can't win?" Zara looked out at the Zephyrian ships with determination in her silver eyes. "Then we'll show them what humans and dragons can do when they work together." That night, Jake's apartment was destroyed in a Zephyrian bombing raid. He and Zara barely escaped with their lives, saved only by Zara's ability to sense the attack coming. As they stood in the rubble of their home, surrounded by human soldiers, Jake realized their quiet life was over. The war that everyone hoped was finished had started again, and this time it was because of them. But when he looked at Zara, standing proud despite losing everything, Jake knew they had made the right choice. Some things were worth fighting for. The military base was hidden deep underground beneath the mountains outside New Terra Colony. Jake had never seen anything like it. Miles of tunnels filled with soldiers, weapons, and technology that seemed impossible even by human standards. Zara had grown again, now the size of a small horse. Her scales had darkened to deep blue with silver patterns that looked like star maps. She walked beside Jake as Captain Hayes led them through the base. "We've been preparing for this day for years," Captain Hayes explained. "Not everyone believed the peace treaty would last." They entered a large room filled with screens showing space around the planet. Dozens of Zephyrian ships surrounded new, Terror like a metal cage. More ships arrived every hour. How long can we hold out? Jake asked. Against the full Zephyrian fleet? Maybe a few weeks, Captain Hayes said. But something unexpected has happened. She pointed to one of the screens showing a different part of space. The Meridian Collective has sent ships to our system. They're requesting permission to land. Jake remembered the Meridians from the war. They were the oldest known alien species, and they hated the Zephyrians more than humans did. What do they want? Jake asked. To talk to Zara. An hour later, Jake and Zara stood in a meeting room with Captain Hayes and 3 Meridian representatives. The Meridians looked like tall, thin humans except for their golden skin and the fact that they had 4 arms. "Young princess," the lead Meridian said in perfect English. "We have been watching the situation with great interest." "I'm not a princess anymore," Zara said. "I gave up that life." "Did you? Or did your people abandon you?" The Meridian's voice was gentle but serious. "We have studied Zephyrian law for centuries. According to their own rules, you are the rightful heir to the throne." "Commander Vexrun is the king now," Zara said. "Commander Vexrun is a usurper who took power through force," the Meridian replied. "He has no royal blood. But you do." Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. "What are you saying?" "We are saying that if Princess Zara claims her throne, she could end this war immediately. The Zephyrian military would have to obey her." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "There's a catch, isn't there? To claim the throne, you must undergo the ceremony of awakening. This ceremony unlocks the full power of royal blood, but it also changes you. You would lose your ability to speak in human words. You would become fully Zephyrian in mind and spirit. So, I would save humanity by becoming something that could never live among humans again," Zara said. "Yes." Jake felt like someone had hit him in the chest. After everything they had been through together, he might lose Zara anyway. "There has to be another way," he said. "Perhaps," the Meridian said, "but time is running out. Our intelligence suggests that Vexrun plans to attack the planet in 3 days. He will destroy every human city rather than let you remain free." That night, Zara and Jake sat on a balcony overlooking the underground base. Soldiers moved through the tunnels below them, preparing for a war they probably could not win. "I have to do it," Zara said quietly. "No, you don't. We'll find another way." "What other way?" "Let millions of people die because I'm too selfish to sacrifice myself?" Jake turned to look at his adopted daughter. "It's not selfish to want to stay with your family." "You taught me that protecting people is the most important thing," Zara said. "Even when it's hard. I also taught you that you matter. Your life has value, too." Zara leaned against Jake's shoulder. Even though she was now much larger than when she first hatched, she still felt like his little girl. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too." They sat in silence for a while, watching the lights of the base flicker like stars in the darkness. "There's something I haven't told you," Zara said. "Since we've been here, I've been receiving messages." "What kind of messages?" "Telepathic ones, from young Zephyrians who disagree with Vexrun. They're sending me their thoughts in secret." Jake was surprised. "What do they say?" "They say I'm not alone. Many of them think the old ways are wrong. They want change, but they're afraid to speak up." "How many?" "Hundreds, maybe thousands. They're waiting for someone to lead them. You, maybe. But only if I become what they expect me to be." The next morning, Zara made her decision. The ceremony would take place at sunset, giving her one last day as herself. Jake spent that day with her, talking about their memories together and trying not to think about what would happen next. "Whatever happens," Zara said, "I want you to know that you gave me the best life possible. You taught me what it means to be loved." "You taught me the same thing," Jake replied. As the sun began to set, they gathered in the ceremonial chamber. The Meridians had set up strange machines that hummed with energy. Captain Hayes and her officers stood nearby, ready to witness the event. Zara walked to the center of the circle. "I'm ready." The machines powered up, filling the room with silver light. Zara closed her eyes and let the energy wash over her. Jake watched as she began to change. Her scales became brighter, her body grew larger, and her eyes started to glow with inner fire. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of losing her ability to speak, Zara's voice became stronger. "I can hear them all," she said in wonder. "Every Zephyrian mind in the fleet. And they can hear me." The Meridian operator looked confused. "This should not be possible." "I don't think the rules apply to me anymore," Zara said. She looked at Jake and smiled. "I can keep both abilities. I can speak to humans and communicate with Zephyrians at the same time." "How?" "Because I was raised by both cultures. I belong to both worlds." Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the base. Captain Hayes received a message on her communicator. "Commander Vexaron is demanding to speak with you," she told Zara. "He's challenging your claim to the throne." "Tell him I accept his challenge," Zara said. Her voice carried a new authority that made everyone in the room stand straighter. "Zara, you can't fight him," Jake said. "He's a trained warrior." "And I'm something new," Zara replied. "I'm a dragon who learned human courage from the best teacher in the galaxy." She walked to Jake and nuzzled his face gently. "Trust me, Daddy. You taught me everything I need to know." An hour later, Zara flew toward the Zephyrian fleet, with human ships escorting her part way. Jake watched from the base as two dragons met in the space between the opposing forces. The battle that followed was visible even from the surface. Streams of fire and energy lit up the night sky as Zara and Vexrun fought among the stars. Jake had taught her to be brave, but he had also taught her to be smart. Zara did not just rely on her natural dragon abilities. She used human tactics, human technology integrated with her dragon powers, and most importantly, human compassion. When the fighting ended, it was Vexrun who fell. But instead of destroying him, Zara caught the wounded commander and brought him safely to one of his own ships. "Mercy," she broadcasted to every Zephyrian mind at once. "This is what humans taught me. This is what makes us strong." The Zephyrian fleet stopped their attack. One by one, their ships powered down their weapons. Zara had won not just the battle, but the hearts of her people. 6 months had passed since the battle in space, and Jake still could not believe how much his life had changed. He stood on the balcony of his new apartment in the capital city of New Terra, watching construction crews build the first mixed species housing complex in the galaxy. Zara had grown to her full adult size, as large as an old Earth elephant, but much more graceful. Her scales now shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow when she was happy, which was most of the time these days. "Good. Morning, Daddy," she said, landing on the large balcony designed specifically for her. "The Meridian Trade Delegation arrived this morning. They want to discuss joining our alliance." "Our alliance," Jake repeated with a smile. It still sounded strange to him that a disabled veteran from the slums was now helping to shape galactic politics. Zara had kept her promise. Instead of ruling from the traditional Zephyrian homeworld, she had established her new government on New Terra. The planet had become the capital of the first interspecies democracy in known history. "The council meeting starts in an hour," Zara said. "Are you ready?" Jake picked up his walking stick. The Zephyrian doctors had offered to fix his leg completely, but he had chosen to keep using the stick as a reminder of how far they had all come. They walked together through the city streets. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side, building something that neither species could have created alone. Children of both races played together in the parks, learning each other's languages and customs. "Look at that," Zara said, pointing to a playground where a young human boy was teaching a young Zephyrian girl how to ride a bicycle. 6 months ago, they would have been afraid of each other. "Kids learn faster than adults," Jake said. "They don't have old fears to overcome." At the government building, they entered the council chamber. Representatives from dozens of species sat around a circular table discussing trade agreements, territorial disputes, and social policies. Jake took his seat as Zara's chief advisor. He still found it hard to believe that alien races from across the galaxy wanted to hear his opinions on anything. The Andromedans have agreed to share their terraforming technology, Captain Hayes reported. She now served as the human representative to the Interspecies Council. In exchange, we'll provide them with our agricultural knowledge, and the Crystalline Collective wants to establish mining operations in the outer asteroid belt, added Dr. Chen, the human science advisor. They're offering advanced medical technology in return. Zara listened to each report carefully. She had learned to balance the needs of many different species, each with their own cultures, biology, and ways of thinking. What about the request from the Tau Ceti system? She asked. 3 different species are fighting over the same planet, Captain Hayes said. They want us to mediate the dispute. We'll send a team next week, Zara decided. Include humans, Zephyrians, and Meridians. Sometimes it takes multiple perspectives to find a solution that works for everyone. After the meeting, Zara and Jake walked to the memorial park they had built in the center of the city. It honored the victims of all, the wars that had brought them to this point, with names written in dozens of different languages and writing systems. Do you ever miss the old days? Jake asked. When it was just you and me in that little apartment? Sometimes, Zara admitted. Life was simpler then. But I think about all the people we've helped since then, and I know we made the right choice. A group of children ran past them, chasing a ball. Jake recognized some of them from the mixed species school that had opened last month. They came from 6 different worlds, but they played together like they had known each other their whole lives. That's what I'm most proud of, Zara said, watching the children. Not the treaties or the trade agreements, but that little girl right there. She pointed to a young Zephyrian who was helping a smaller human boy reach a ball that had gotten stuck in a tree. She's showing kindness to someone different from herself, Zara continued. Just like you showed kindness to me, just like you showed kindness to everyone, Jake replied. That evening, they received an urgent message from the outer colonies. A new species had been discovered, one that seemed hostile and dangerous. The local authorities were requesting help. Another crisis, Jake said with a sigh. Another opportunity, Zara corrected. Remember what you taught me about first impressions? Maybe they're not hostile. Maybe they're just scared. 3 days later, Jake found himself on a ship headed toward the unknown. Zara flew alongside them, leading a small diplomatic mission to make contact with the new species. When they arrived at the outer colony, they found the situation was more complicated than the reports had suggested. The new species was not attacking. They were refugees fleeing from something even more dangerous. Their homeworld was destroyed, Zara explained after communicating with them telepathically. They're looking for a new place to live. What destroyed their world? Captain Hayes asked. They call it the Void Fleet, ships that consume entire planets for fuel. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How far away is this Void Fleet? Not far enough, Zara said. We need to warn everyone. The refugee species, who called themselves the Harmony, had technology that could hide planets from the Void Fleet sensors. In exchange for sanctuary, they shared this knowledge with the Alliance. Another crisis that became an opportunity, Jake said as they watched the Harmony ships land safely on an empty world that the Alliance had prepared for them. That's what happens when people choose to help instead of fight, Zara replied. On the trip home, Jake thought about everything that had happened since that day when a tiny dragon hatched in his apartment. He had gone from being a forgotten veteran to helping shape the future of the galaxy. But the most important thing had not changed. Zara still curled up next to him when she slept, still asked for his advice when making difficult decisions, and still called him Daddy. Do you think we'll ever have a quiet life again? He asked as their ship approached New Terra. Probably not, Zara said with a laugh. But would you really want one? Jake thought about the children playing in the park, the species working together. Despite their differences and the hope in the eyes of refugees finding new homes. No, he said. I think I like this life better. As their ship landed on New Terra, Jake could see the lights of a city where dozens of species lived and worked, together in peace. It was not perfect. There were still problems to solve and challenges to overcome. But it was something beautiful and new. Zara had taught him that family was not about blood or species. Family was about choosing to care for each other. No matter how different you might be. The disabled veteran and the dragon who spoke like a human had started a revolution, not with weapons or violence, but with kindness, understanding, and the simple belief that everyone deserved a chance to belong somewhere, and in the end, that had been enough to change the galaxy.